You ever flinch when someone calls you soft? Like it's a scarlet letter, like softness means weakness, or worse, irrelevance. But here's a question. What if softness isn't surrender? What if softness is the space where real strength lives?
Steel and shadow, fists fly high, breaking through limits, I reach for the sky. Martial instincts power my stride, fight principles guiding my fight.
Welcome to Fight Principles. I'm Sasha, and today we are pulling apart one of the most destructive myths in martial arts and in life as a whole, that hard always beats soft. And getting it straight right away, this episode is not about being passive. No, softness doesn't mean passive. It's about reclaiming softness as a form of strategy, a form of power, a form of clarity. Because sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it. Let me paint you a picture, and I think you might all have seen this before. You're in any martial arts gym, there's always this one guy, all muscle, no flow. Every sparring round going full blast, clenched fists, locked jaw, every jab a hammer. You've seen this, right? Super strong guy, but kind of predictable. If you have experience, kind of easy to read, easy to gas out. Fights super hard, not necessarily always super smart. On the other hand, you have this quiet dude, smaller, slower, softer, soft-spoken, quiet. This guy absorbs, moves, redirects. This guy then doesn't win by force, but by sheer presence. And that's a thing from being in martial arts gyms for a long time that stuck with me. You don't need to explode every single time to dominate. You need to listen, to adapt. And this learning kind of influences today's episode. And as always, we're trying to look into 5 principles that we can learn from this approach to hopefully apply to real life. And so here we go, 5 principles for powerful softness. The first one I want to call strength without flexibility is fragile. That's basically the example I just mentioned. In a fight, a rigid body gets broken, and the soft body adapts. And we can translate that to life. If you can't bend, you break. Emotionally, mentally, relationally. It could be at work, with your partner, with your friends, anywhere. So this leads me to believe that real control is responsive, not reactive. Again, applies to the fight, applies to life. Control is responsive, not reactive. My second principle would be that force is pretty loud. Presence is quiet. In a fight, soft fighters, they conserve energy. They find angles. They pivot. They last longer. And taking this to life. In life, loud confidence is often fear in disguise, right? When people are really loud, like, I'm the best at this, I can do this, I'm awesome at this. That's usually insecurity, fear, being disguised as confidence. So taking, again, a learning from this is, I think that presence doesn't need volume. Presence needs awareness. And if you are aware of who you are, what you can do, where you're good at, what needs to be done, then you will be successful. You don't need to yell into the world how awesome you are, right? I also think that another thing we can take from this is that and that's going to be our third principle, that hardness reacts while softness feels, if that makes sense. In the fight, for example, jiu-jitsu is built on yielding. And in life, emotional intelligence requires sensitivity. And not just sensitivity as fragility, but as information. So I'd say that if we feel more, we can actually control things better. So just being hard for the sake of I'm tough, I'm hard, and you're so soft, you're so sensitive, yeah, you and your feelings, doesn't make any sense, because only those people who understand their feelings can actually use them, utilize them, understand them, overcome them, whatever you need to do. So feel more, and if you feel more, if you understand your feelings, you will be able to control them much better. My fourth principle, based on all of that, is that I'd say compassion is a form of combat. What do I mean by that? Well, in a fight, right, showing mercy when you're clearly in control is real power. Even if it's sparring, right, and you're like, I'm so much better than the guy I spar with right now. Why would you try to hurt the guy, right? Why would you try to tap him out right away? Like, roll a little bit, or if you're sparring, boxing, Muay Thai, whatever it might be, just let him get something off, block it, throw some stuff back that he can also see coming. Like, show some mercy. And in real life, compassion lets you choose peace without fear. And I think that's an incredible superpower. You don't need to hate on everybody. Not everybody is your competitor. Not everybody needs to be left behind. Be compassionate in life, because then you will find peace, and you will not live in fear anymore. If you're not compassionate, and if everything is a competition for you, everything is about winning, and it's either me or them, you're always in fear that someone else will leave you behind. But if you go through life with compassion, you are choosing peace over fear. Because not fighting doesn't mean you cannot fight. Choosing not to fight means you don't need to fight every single time with everybody that's out there. Can you choose compassion? That's your form of combat as well. And the fifth principle would be, for me, that the strongest structures breathe. What does that mean? Well, in a fight, good form has flow, right? Tension and release, tension and release. You're not always tense all the time. You can't maintain that. So in life, I would say that a schedule without space is life without meaning. So, and I'm not saying don't have schedules, don't have anything to adhere to. I'm German, as you can guess or hear from my accent, right? So I'm a sucker for structure, but you need to make room, and softness creates space for growth. So not everything needs to be super strictly planned, and then planning is great, but you need to have some room to breathe, some room to develop, some room to explore things. And only if you have this room to explore, you can actually also grow. So don't hinder your growth by thinking I need to be hard and I need to stick to every single thing that I said, or every single thing that I planned. Again, don't twist those words. It doesn't mean that you should just give up on everything that you plan. Of course not. Plans are great. Stick to your words. If you promise something, of course you stick to it. But yet don't plan every single second of life, because you need to get or have some space for growth. Okay. Now, we have our 5 principles. Now let's try to bring them together. Let's look at how we can apply this in real life. And to do this, I think we also have to look into why do people actually fear softness? I think people fear softness because softness reveals. Softness exposes. Softness slows things down enough for you to actually feel something. And this feeling something is terrifying. Because if we slow down, we might realize how much we are hurting, or how lost we are, or how much of our hardness is just armor. But here's the thing. Softness isn't the absence of protection. Softness is the choice to show up anyway. So in a sense, showing softness makes you so much harder than just pretending to be hard all the time. So that's that. What can we do to embrace our softness, if you will? Well, I think a first step that I'm trying to do, and maybe you can let me know if you can do this too, if you have any other ideas. I try to choose softness at least once per day. And I mean, hopefully I do it more often, but I try to do it like purposefully once a day in a reaction, in a relationship, or maybe even just in training. Like, you could ask yourself, what would this look like if I wasn't afraid to seem gentle? And while this might sound a bit cheesy, let's be honest. All of us are putting on some sort of armor at some point. Even like I recorded this podcast right now, I talked for 10 minutes about this, right? I'm still putting on some armor at times. Sometimes in training too, even though I just said like, hey, in sparring, don't be that guy. Sometimes you're still that guy, right? Sometimes in a relationship, you're not completely soft, completely honest, completely vulnerable. Now, sometimes you're reacting in certain ways that you're trying to act like, oh, that doesn't bother me. So in those situations, choose softness. Try it, okay? Try it at least once a day, because if you do that, you might actually just find your personal edge and what's gonna set you apart. So it has been 10 minutes talking about softness. Let me know what you think, of course. Shout out in the comments. That would be fantastic. Follow at Fight Principles anywhere, everywhere, all the time. Don't forget, you're not less dangerous because you're soft. You're more dangerous because you've mastered both sides of the blade. Until then, I'm Sasha. Stay fluid, stay intentional, and remember, still water cuts deepest.
Steel and shadow, fists fly high, breaking through limits, I reach for the sky. Martial instincts power my stride, fight principles guiding my fight.